Mama's in the living room watching Judge Judy. I'm in the kitchen eating leftover sushi, and she yells, "Oh, girl, you gotta hear this one." A man was arrested for running the theme park, and when they said, "Where's your license?" he said, "My dog ate it." Oh, you can't make this shit up. Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on her Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, "Girl, you gotta hear this one." Mama loves to laugh at how absurd life is, says it's all a comedy and I'm her audience. And I love the way she makes fun of the world. She said, "You'll never guess what's with their girlfriend. It was a man who didn't get us out of the bed. He said, I've been through hell and now I need some help. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up." Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, "Girl, you gotta hear this one."
Hey guys, something about this LaGuardia fire truck CRJ incident is just not sitting right with me. And although usually I wait till the preliminary report comes out, I just wanted to do some deep dives on some stuff and ended up going down some rabbit holes. And we're going to talk about them today. And joining me today is Spawn Trooper, who has joined me for aviation streams for well over a year now.
Yeah. Sorry.
But if you're new here, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. We don't do speculation. We do facts and data. And that's what we are going to do today. We are going to look at the ATC audio courtesy of Vaz Aviation. Thank you to his channel. He is amazing. And also watch the NTSB press conferences that have happened with my spirit woman, Jennifer Hamady. She is like, if I could be powerful and big and important in this world, I'd want to be like her. So that's kind of what we're doing today. I have some diagrams. I have some talk based on my background as an aviation electronics tech and a ramp agent for a U.S. domestic carrier at a somewhat major airport in the U.S. And I have input from my spouse, my better half, Mr. Squid, who has worked in aviation for over 20 years, both military and civilian, has his AMP license and a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering. So we don't speculate. I ask him hypothetical questions and he looks at me like I've got 10 heads. All right, let's get into this.
Just before we do, ladies and gentlemen, Ewoks, Wookiees, members of the jury, Your Honor, please remember that people have lost their lives in this accident, and therefore we have a little bit of decorum in regard to that. However, we're not going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing the actual incident, how it came upon to be an incident, and we're going to be going into some bits and bobs. So please remember, some people did lose their life. That was the pilot and a co-pilot, and a stewardess was severely injured. So please remember that whilst we are covering this topic. Thank you very much. Do you have a nice day? Your Honor, the case, we rest.
I need a gavel. All right. And let's just give a hi to the chat for hanging out with us today.
Yes.
Title, thanks for being my super mod. And yes, get your tell of truth if you wonder about my skincare and why it looks like I got Botox and I really didn't.
Hi, Janet. Hi, Heidel.
I've been using Beef Tallow skincare from the Tallow Truth. Go to their website, use code SQUID, you get 15% off. Amazing. I
Hi,
love it.
JK. Hi, Gail.
Privilege.
Hello,
I've been waiting
Gail.
for this. Questions. Oh boy, I got questions. Yes. And I will try to get to chat questions and answer them to best of my ability. However, if I do not know, I will say I do not know because I have knowledge, but I am not an expert. I am not a pilot, although I know a lot. I know a lot of pilots. I've worked with a lot of pilots. I am not a pilot. So with that being said, I don't usually ask for super chats. However, if you really want your chat to be seen and you're scared I'm going to miss it, the super chat is the way that it will not be missed. I usually don't do that. However, when certain people want questions answered and I miss them, I don't want to make anybody mad. So that is the best way to do it. However, not required. And Volusia One, thank you for getting today started with a $50 Ko-fi. I appreciate you so very, very much. I could not do this without your help and assistance and parasocial love. Like, you know, I appreciate you so very, very much. And I hope you're doing well.
Hi, Chucky. How you doing, bud? Yeah, Jeff has got a big heart. Kudos to you, bud.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Jeff's wife is amazing as well. She put her foot up his butt the other day. So she's getting
Good.
Jeff into fighting shape.
Good.
So
right. Okay, let's crack on.
All right. First things we are going to do.
Hang on. Guys, before we carry on, there will be times where I will say things to Squid that may offend you. Do not be offended. This is the way we rock. Well.
Yeah, I told him to shut up at least once already today, and he told me the same thing. So
yeah.
And I'm sorry, my hair is kind of still wet.
Stop. Carry on. Crack on.
We're gonna do this. I'm just trying to get it in a way where I don't look like a drowned rat. There we go.
Let's do this. Oh, you know, when a woman puts her hair up, it's usually fighting talk. Wait, what?
Where's Mrs. Spawn with the frying pan when you need her?
Oh, hey, do you know what? She doesn't know yet, but it's on its way. It was really hard to find because it's for an induction cooker, and that's SMN and everyone else's fault, by the way. Thank you very much. Right, let's crack on.
She's bossy, but she needs to be.
Yeah,
tell her I said boss away. All right,
I got promoted again. Why did you just fucking hit me, you stupid cat? I got promoted again. She promoted me back to night. There you go. Get it? She promoted me tonight.
All right. On that happy note, we are going to get started with the.
Come on, let's go.
There's two different press conferences. We are going to start with the one from 2 days ago. 2 days ago. All right. Actually, I lied. We're going to start with the audio and get a background on what was going on before this incident even started. So this is what we are going to do first things first. So setting the scene, this is audio from Vaz Aviation. He has a channel on YouTube, and it's amazing because he cuts out everything that's not important. However, there are some things in this audio that I want you to pay attention to, and I will be stopping it to talk about it. And I also have a diagram of LaGuardia with some markers on it, so we know what we're talking about. All right. Hopefully it plays. Come on. There we go.
United 2384, traffic inside 3 mile final from runway 4, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 13, United 2384.
So United 2384 is not the plane that ran into the fire truck. 2384 is the reason the fire truck was needed.
Fucking adverts.
Yeah, this is his
on 13. 2384, roger. I can make the right turn at Lima and a left turn on Bravo. Do you require any assistance?
No, negative, United. Left turn on Lima and Bravo, United. 2384.
Roger, contact ground point 7.
Point 7, then at 2384.
And I believe that's the first officer because the captain is currently going through and
Good.
starting
Ground,
to do
United.
checklists.
2384 is on Bravo.
2384. Just, which lane are you getting?
We're probably going to go back to the runway. We just rejected the takeoff, United 2384.
2384. Okay, why don't you go Lima Alpha and then host your taxiway Kilo, and when able, say actually Mike Alpha showed up Kilo, and when able, say the reason for the abort.
Yeah, we need to hold position for a little bit, United 2384.
No problem. Can you hold short of Mike, or do you need to just stay right there?
Yeah, we can hold short of Mike, United 2384.
I hold short of Mike, and then when you get a chance, let me know the reason for the abort.
We'll let you know, United 2384.
Gail, the first aborted takeoff that they just did was not the fumes in the cabin. So we're getting there. Put the cart before the horse. But when they are talking about certain things, let's see. Technology. So I've got so many things open and I'm trying to be good about it that like we need to make sure I don't screw something up. So I started marking up this, and I have to download it and open it as an image file because I just realized that something's not going to work with StreamYard if I try to do it the way I wanted to do it. So give me 1 second. And this is what happens when, there we go. All right, so this is United 2384, and I started doing a small graphic here. It's hard to see because it is so tiny, and the way I wanted to do it, I can't with StreamYard. There's a way I can do it. I just don't know what it is yet. However,
I'll enlarge it.
I will. Let me send it to you real quick.
Yeah, I'll enlarge it.
This is what I've been doing all day. I could do it and just open it on my Canva, but I have stuff on my Canva that I don't want to,
No problem. Just send it, and I'll enlarge it and then send it back to you. So you got the runways and taxiways.
Okay. Whoop. Wrong Facebook. When you have 3, I don't understand how people can keep track of alt accounts. I have an account for each page and then my personal account, and I can't keep track of which one I'm on and how to change it, let alone like how
I struggle with the fucking DM messages. Like, when someone messages me, I'm like, shit, where is it?
I'm like, how do people do this and have like 6 alt accounts or whatever, to hypothetical, and keep track of everything and switch between them easily? Because I have 2 accounts, one for each YouTube channel, and then my personal account, and I can't even.
Right.
No,
so what's the most important thing? Just the runway.
So that runway is where they were taking off from, and the taxiways. I basically, on their first abort, this is where they were, and this is where they ended up. See the small X at the bottom? This X down here at the bottom here, that is where they ended up.
Here you go. It's a little bit bigger.
Thank you. Oh, yes. So we're going to go to this. There we go. So for here, this is where down here, this X at the bottom, near the bottom right, is where they ended up this time.
Did you get that?
Second aborted takeoff, they stopped at this X in the middle. And these are all the labels of all the taxiways. So you can see what I wanted to do with this is, we know runway 4 is this big old runway right here going up and down. Well, there was the question initially of why was the fire truck crossing the active runway. It's because it had to get to these taxiways over here. And you can see my little fire station, my little fire emblem over here, my little emoji, is where the fire truck was coming from. So the fire truck is coming from right here, where you see all these little D's. That's the taxiway that the fire truck was on when it crossed the runway. Because it had to get over to taxiway A to get to this plane.
Sorry.
That was the main thing that I wanted to accomplish with this graphic, is just to show you the why, because everybody's so focused on the planes colliding, or the plane colliding with the fire truck, and of course the fatalities and everybody who's injured and the investigation. But there was a reason that it was crossing the landing way, or the runway, and it was to get to this plane on the other side of the airport. So
That other graphic I just sent you back is a little bit more clearer. It's closer. So it'll probably help people with glasses or bad eyesight to see the X's and the lines that you've put on there.
Let's see.
Just to
this
help.
one.
Yeah.
So they were down here. The first aborted takeoff is where they stopped. The second aborted takeoff is where they finally stopped. And we're going to get to some other things that I think led to this situation in the first place. Like, you will listen that not everything, and as we've seen on this channel with aviation streams and aviation issues, it is not just one thing happened. It is breakdown after breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. And we're going to continue to listen to this audio. And I will tell you exactly where I think, my personal opinion, based on my knowledge of ops, ramp, and just airport operations in general. And then we will get to some other issues that I think are important. So these are all my personal opinions, just based on what I've known. I did ask Mr. Squid a couple of questions, but he's got his own work stuff going on. So my work stuff is on the back burner, considering he is the breadwinner in this family. His work stuff gets put before mine.
I just find it very strange that, like, the bird came off the runway at taxiway Lima, and then backtracked onto Bravo, and then crossed, and then
they were originally going to head back to a gate, and we'll get to that, because these are all down here are all the terminals. Up we are. So they also, you have to remember, this is LaGuardia. This is a very busy airport with lots of incoming traffic, and you can't just, there's people who need these taxiways.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to put them somewhere where they're going to be out of the way.
That's why I'm asking, because I find it quite strange that why didn't they just take him down, keep him on Bravo, and then until you got to sort of like Papa or Gold.
We'll get to that. They were down here, and then they said they were going to take off again. So they were cleared to take off again. So that's why they left that area, because they were going to take off again.
Got you.
So I just erased, when I was doing my lines, as I was listening to the audio, I just erased all the lines that led them down here, because that got too freaking crazy.
Yeah.
that got a little too hard to see. So we will get back to, and I wish I could play this audio on top of this graphic, but it is what it is.
Excuse me.
Come on.
I wait for 84. Actually, make it Bravo, short of November.
Short November.
What's the lineup for tonight for Brickyard 4446, 4466?
Your number 15.
Thanks.
So they sit there for 8 minutes going through
United
checklists.
2380.
So while they are sitting there, they are going through checklists to see, do they have an emergency? Is it a minor problem that can be fixed in the cockpit? Is it something where they need to declare an emergency? Is it something that they need to cancel the flight and get a new aircraft? So many damn checklists that pilots have to go through. They don't just sit there for the fun of it. They're actively working. While we are all in the back of the plane bitching that we are not taking off and wondering what the holdup is, they are trying to actively troubleshoot the problem. So take it easy on your pilots.
Any word on you?
We're making some phone calls here, United 2384.
Hey, do me a favor, United 2384. Make it Bravo, short of Zulu, please.
Bravo, short of Zulu, United 2384. And ground, we need to hold position for now, United 2384.
2384, right to hold your position.
And you can only hear that there's two different controllers.
Ground, United 2384.
Yes, sir.
We are just finalizing here. Do you know the estimate for us to take off for United 2384?
You got stepped on. I had two frequencies. What's that? Just go for United 23.
There's another thing that I want you to pay attention to. You got stepped on. I have two frequencies. We talked about with the collision in DC about being on different frequencies and not hearing each other. In Bangor, we talked about two pilots going on a different frequency to talk to each other, and the plane that crashed not being able to hear that audio. There is multiple different frequencies at these airports, and sometimes air traffic control switches between them and people get stepped on. So there's another problem with our current ATC system, that people get stepped on. You were going to say something?
No, I'm just, I was about to say the same thing. Like the ATC system. I mean, like, I don't know what it is, but these accidents and incidents couldn't, yeah. It's getting very silly now. And very suspicious.
It's like, what was that?
We are just about ready. Do you know how long for us to taxi and take off, roughly?
Let me know when you're fully ready. I'll try to get you out of here as soon as you can. I mean, if you probably it'll be minutes. It won't be long because I'll get you to the head of the line.
Okay, we'll let you know at 2384.
Ground Unit 2384.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, dispatch says if we can be off in the next 30 minutes, they're good sending us back to the runway. Otherwise, they want us to go back to the gate for LTD.
I mean, as soon as you're ready, you let me know that I could accommodate. Once you're ready, try to get you in line.
Yeah, we're ready now. Do you think it'll be doable within that 30-minute time frame?
Well, plan on probably within the 10 minutes.
Oh, perfect. All right, thank you very much. And we'll sit everyone down. We had them up just because it's going to be a few minutes on the phone call with dispatch. So we'll sit everyone down and we'll call you back.
Okay, yep. Let me know when you're fully ready, and then we'll do what we can.
Thank you.
So there's also the thing about if you can't be out in 30 minutes, you need to go back. These pilots are also on timed. If you are working for a certain amount of time, you can time out during a flight, and you have to go back to the gates because your pilots are now timed out and can't actually be your pilots. And they were on the phone with dispatch, so my guess is it had something to do with pilot time. Yeah. Yep, radios have a limit of one information stream per carrier per frequency, and the stronger signal will ride over a weaker one. Yeah, and Robert Ward had a good thing, a 90s tech being used in 2026. And that's the problem, because as we've discussed on this channel multiple times, to the point where it's like beating a dead horse, if not one person is to blame, not one administration is to blame, because everybody passed the buck to the next person. And here we find ourselves in 2026 with an outdated system, and now it's starting to catch up with us and bite us in the ass. Welcome to 2026.
Taxi out time's looking.
20 minutes or so to get out of here.
And this is why I like Vaz Aviation, because he cuts out the stuff that's not pertinent to what we're talking about. And I love him for that.
Ground United 2384, ready to taxi, information India.
United 2384, roger, runway 13, November Alpha, and Echo, hold short of runway 4.
Runway 13, November Alpha Echo, hold short of runway 4, United 2384.
So they go up to where
Yeah,
they're
2384, 10705, 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff 13, United 2384.
This is the second time they're attempting to take off. So this is 1118.
Tower, United 2384 is rejected on runway 13.
2384, Roger, so you're boarding the takeoff again?
That's affirmative, United 2384.
2384, all right, make the right at Mike, and then right on Bravo for me.
Right on Mike and right on Bravo, United 2384.
So skipping ahead a little bit.
We'll call though.
United 2384, is this odor like a smoke odor? Like a fire?
No, that was a weird odor. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but yeah, we can't get a hold of anyone at ops for a gate assignment.
Breakdown number 2. They are trying to call their airport operations. So there's the tower with all the air traffic controllers and airport operations and all that. And then each airline has an ops tower. And you will see little towers on top of the terminals. Like you can see windows and you can see people in there, and they're not air traffic control. You don't know what they are. They're airport operations. They are individual airline employees that are responsible for their their planes, getting their planes out, talking to their gate agents, their pilots. They cannot get a hold of their ops in order to get a gate assignment. Which, it's one thing if you have no gates available, totally can see that being an issue. However, they can't even get a hold of their gate or their ops to get back into the gate. Had they been able to get a hold of their operations and gotten back to a gate assignment, got the plane or got everybody deplaned and figured out what the problem was, they wouldn't have had to declare an emergency. The fire truck would have never been out there. Breakdown number, 3, 4 by now? So it's a lot of little steps here. All of the Swiss cheese holes have to line up all at one time. So the fact that they can't get a hold of their ops is a gigantic problem. That should never be something that happens.
Can't get any. Okay, all right, roger that. I'll give him a call.
And the tower is calling.
Seems like the odor's dissipated, but yeah, we double reject for an anti-ice issue, and then we had a small odor there as we exited.
Or they'd like to go back to the ramp. They got like some kind of odor, and do you have a lane for them, and what gate? No, this is LaGuardia Tower. Hello?
LaGuardia Power?
Yeah. I got a United 2384 here boarded, and he wants to go back to the ramp, but he can't get in touch with the LGP ramp.
Okay, hang on 1 second. I see him over there. Hang on 1 second.
Okay, thanks. How you doing? This is LaGuardia Tower. I'd like, we have a United 2384 that aborted his takeoff, and he said he's requesting to get back to the gate because he's got like some odor and he's requesting fire. Do you guys have a gate for him? You don't have a gate for him?
Yeah, their airline would have to tow off and go to a hard stand to give them a gate. I'm going to get a hold of them.
Okay, all right, roger that, thanks.
No one can get a hold of the damn airline. United, what are you doing? United at LaGuardia, what are you doing? Like, you can't get a hold of your damn airline. It's like, this has nothing to do with the fire truck or Air Canada, and yet this is what led to that. The breakdown in communication here led to the future problem.
Yeah, and now we're starting to get the domino event. Things start falling over.
Which is why, to me, this was very important to listen to, because this set the groundwork, and the failures here by everybody. And I'm not saying one person is at fault, but little things. 2 aborted takeoffs, can't get a gate. The tower is trying to get a hold of your airline for you because the pilots can't do it. That's a ramp and a United Ops failure. Like it's just a long, yeah. Seems like United Fubar. Yeah. And if you don't know what Fubar is, Google it. Yeah, everyone is at fault. Yeah, everybody has little parts to play. It's just no one is right as of now. No one is 100% at fault, but this is where things start to break down. And just like when people say your flight's delayed because of weather, you look outside and it's sunny. It's not always about what's going on in front of you. It's about what happened before, what happened somewhere else that led to a problem now. Angel? You want K-pop?
No, it's not.
You broke it?
No, it's shit.
Do you need my help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna let this play. I'm gonna speed it up just a teeny tiny bit. And I am going to figure out what my child needs because she brought me the TV remote, which is not a good sign. So I will be right back.
2384, I just got off the phone with your ramp. They don't have a gate for you. So is this just an emergency now? Is it still an emergency?
All right. So
2384.
Spawn, you give your opinions on this. I'm going to pause it because I want to hear this next part.
Yep.
So you're in charge.
That's a very, very bad idea, but okay. Personally, I think, like, considering that this was now the second time, I think what they should have done in every airport, if their plane has an issue, they usually always put the plane somewhere out of the way of taxiways and runways if they have a situation. And here, this plane is just basically right there. You know, it's and if you got an odor, you would, I mean, why aren't they like, okay, you boarded the flight, you're coming off, you got an odor, right? Okay, so you don't know what the odor is, you can't explain it. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of fucking things going wrong here, just in this part. But hey, we shall find out. I mean, personally, I think that the United, the company itself, it looks like there's a chain reaction happening here. You know, they can't get a ramp because there's lack of fucking information. People are not picking up when they're supposed to pick up. So this is a catalyst, and we already know the result of this. The ending of this.
Do you want to know what the problem was with the little? She muted the TV and couldn't figure out how to unmute it.
Oh.
She's like, play it, and it's just like, no sound. I'm like,
yeah. Do you know, there's I mean, like, thinking about it now, excuse me, I apologize for doing that. Thinking about it now, there's a lot of incompetence going on, both on the ATC, both with the pilots, and also with the company.
At this point, I don't really see a huge problem with ATC because they're the only reason that I hear them getting a little stressed is because they're having to call the airport, or they're having to call the airline and try to get a hold of the airline because the pilots can't. That's probably not normal for them.
I mean, like, at the end of the day, why?
They are calling because the plane can't get a hold of them. So
this is what gets me, right? You need the company needs to book a fucking gate. At the end of the day, the airport sticks you in a gate, right? You get shit sorted, and then afterwards, the airport sends the fucking company a bill for the gate. Simple.
Well, that's the thing. With all these flights coming in and out, everybody's got a gate assignment. You have a gate assignment generally before, like if you have a connecting flight, there's a gate assignment that you're going into before your flight even takes off. Like they know where everybody's supposed to be. So when one of the puzzle pieces all of a sudden gets like thrown off the board, things get a little, there may be no gates available. You have to wait for somebody else to leave because you held up the line and you screwed up the routine. So yes, there are contingency plans. However, these gate assignments are, you see how tight things are. When flights are delayed, everybody gets blamed, like down to the minute. Like if there's a 5-minute delay and it's ramp and gate will literally fight over who gets the most minutes, because I don't want a delay to be put on me. So I'm going to blame the gate agent. The gate agent's going to blame me, and you have to split. If a flight leaves 5 minutes late, somebody's getting blamed for that 5 minutes. And it's just it's a coordinated, it's predicted chaos. Like it's chaotic, but it's like an organized chaos. Whereas when a flight doesn't take off and aborts their takeoff and has to go back or calls an emergency, there may be no gate for them, because gates cost each airline and sometimes the city money. So every gate is filled. It's like being on a flight. Every seat needs to be filled, and some airlines will overbook flights so that they can make sure that even if people don't show up, there's a butt in every seat, and they make their money. Especially when fuel prices were so high back in the 2010s, it was bad. So it's just one of those things of like everything is coordinated, and when someone throws a wrench into the nice puzzle, it gets a little chaotic. But we're gonna start this again.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with your ramp there. They don't have a gate for you. So you still need us to send fire there?
Yeah, because there's still an odor in the back.
Okay. United 2384, do you guys plan on evacuating at all?
Negative.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to put you in a better spot here. All right, United 2384, can I move now?
Yeah, we can move.
All right, make the left turn on Kilo, and then right on Alpha, short of Echo.
Kilo left turn, okay, United 2384.
Which, for that, was going to be this. So they are here right now. Alpha, short of Echo, is all the way up here. So they're trying to get them closer to the fire station. So I don't know exactly, but looking at the footage of the aircraft, I would not be shocked if it was on impact. I don't know. I have not seen anything or heard anything officially. However, just based on the looks, I would not be surprised.
Yes, I think they did. That impact there would have, yeah.
Like I said, we work on fact, not speculation. I mean, I'm just saying that's why I'm not confirming or denying, because I do not know. However, I would not be surprised if they did. And unfortunately, and this sounds very morbid and awful to say, but that's probably for the best. Because that would have been a very not fun, not like death is ever fun, but that would have been painful. And sometimes expiring on impact is better than suffering. I don't know. Someone said it was up on impact and really quick. Yes, I would think so, but also it's one of those things where I don't speculate, especially because so many things could be possible, and I don't have any medical reports or confirmation from the NTSB yet.
Can I just point something out, please?
Yep.
Having the experience of RTC's, RTI's investigations, and actually being involved in a couple myself, I can tell you right now, if one object is doing 100 to 110 miles an hour and hits a somewhat static object that's more than 3 tons, which that truck is, the answer to devil fans, yes, instant. Because the thing is, you have to remember that your speed, your impact speed, especially if you're doing 40 miles and the other vehicle is doing 40 miles, you multiply that by 3 because that's the impact. So you're doing 120, each vehicle's doing 100. So yes, those poor pilot and co-pilot, those poor chaps, like that. There you go.
And like I said, I would think so based on the physics and the look of it. However, I am not the NTSB or the medical examiner, so I cannot confirm nor deny that because I don't know.
Yeah, I missed that. I'm sorry. I actually just got up and made myself a coffee, so I totally.
It's just one of those things of like, but if I had to speculate, I would say yes. However, I don't speculate, so until I know for sure. But based on the looks of it, probably.
Yeah, my apologies, Squid. I did just get up and walk away and made myself a coffee, so I missed a little bit.
No, that's fine. It's just one of those situations where I don't like to speculate on things. However, if you looked at the aircraft, you would be surprised if anybody survived.
No, I mean, my response, basically, all I'm saying is this, is that if you, obviously from the video that we've seen, if an object is doing 100 to 110 miles an hour, hitting a object that's over 3 tons and is sideways, I mean, that vehicle is probably about 8 ton. You have to put into your mind that you've got a fucking moving vehicle or moving object hitting a potentially static object. Okay, the survival rate, I mean, come on, look at the state.
I get it. We're getting off topic though.
Yes, we are. Let's move on.
But here, AT1, I have a slight story to tell you. If cell service is on while on the ground, there's an airplane mode for cell phones for a reason. I happen to know my cell phone works from 7,000 feet, and it does not interfere with with any of the flight controls or cockpit audio, because I made a phone call during an emergency landing to my boss at the airport. And he's like, "Where are you calling from?" I'm like, looked at the back of the seat in front of me because I was on an Airbus. So then I could see the flight aware, and I was about 7,000 feet when I made a phone call. So,
you know,
that myself works from 7,000 feet.
You know, like, I actually did some, like, when I sent you the 2 videos about this, I was doing some research, and I quote this person's comment. Well, why didn't they fucking apply power and take off again? They could have avoided this. And yes, that's exactly the same freaking reaction I had. Right there. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing, what Squid's doing, that's exactly the same reaction I had. I didn't comment. I didn't respond to it. I just turned around and walked
My
away.
response would be, are you always this stupid, or did you fail high school physics?
I mean, like, I don't know, but this person was from Chicago, so not sure.
That explains it. Sorry. I'm one of those people where, like, basic physics class, when you have an object moving at a certain speed, you need a certain speed to take off. And when they're actively slowing, this is not Top Gun, where when an aircraft hits the deck of a carrier, they go high power. Like, when an aircraft hits the ground, they put on the brakes.
Yeah, it's
so
like
that they can stop.
Yeah, it's like pilot to co-pilot. Engage ludicrous speed.
But people see, like, landing on an aircraft carrier and they're like, oh, they just took off again. Yes, that's because there is a wire to help them stop. When a pilot hits the aircraft carrier, they put on their afterburners and they go high power just in case they miss the wire, they can take off again, because they are running on a very short takeoff.
Yeah. And that's also
however, that is not realistic to a CRJ-900.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what Squid just spoke about, that is also known as a bolter.
I'm be right back. I'm looking for something.
Oh, okay.
Whoop, I'm missing a wing.
Okay. Wait, what?
I'm missing a wing. All right. So Well, physics lesson here.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, let me ask you a very simple question. Right? Why is it
81's
that?
comment.
Who?
Sorry. 81's comment. Last time I looked, a CRJ didn't have a tail hook either.
Yeah, that'd be funny. I mean, here's one thing. Why is it that? I don't know if I should say this or not. Why is it that, like, it seems that common sense seems to be very, very fucking sort of like far and few to be found lately, or over the last year?
Because of the fact that people think with their emotion first, and when you are thinking fight or flight, only one system can take over. Either your logic takes over or your emotion takes over. Generally speaking, they cannot exist. I will use this example from my mother long time ago, and she'll get mad at me for saying this story, but I don't care. She's already mad at me for breaking the tail of her plane. With that being said, she was driving somewhere and I was in the passenger seat. We had been to this specific location that we were going probably 50,000 times. She had lived in this town for her entire life. She forgot how to, because there was a road closed and there was some traffic, it sent her anxiety through the roof, and she could not process how to find another way around. Even though she knew it, she was thinking anxious emotion, and her logic and her basic tasks of like thinking critically, they can't coexist. They just don't. The way the brain works, the two just can't work at the same time. So when people get emotional because they're mad, they're sad, they're whatever, it takes away from their critical thinking skills. Whereas me, I forget to show emotion because I don't know how. I go to the Mr. Squid school of no emotion. I'm hypercritical and critical thinking to the point where like sometimes it looks like I lack empathy because I am all focused on process and not focused on people.
Squid?
So, yes.
I'm going to concur with your mother, Mama Squid. Hi, Mama Squid, by the way. Shut up and carry on.
Don't break my plane again. So you can thank Mama Squid for this. This is a CRJ. This is a CRJ-200. It is a lot smaller than a CRJ-900, but you get the basic airframe thing. Think about this coming in for a landing and hitting the brakes. This thing is thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. It cannot just put on the brakes and then instantly take off again. It's too heavy. It needs airflow under the wings in order to take off, because at the end of the day, flight works with air under the wings, creating lift. And if there's not enough speed, you can't just take off. You will stall, and then you will crash and kill everybody. So, like, you know, it's one of those situations. Yes, when you look up RBF in the dictionary, Squid's picture is the reference image.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. So it's just this is my this is my mother's. So, but it is a CRJ. It's got a broken tail because the one thing she said when she let me borrow it was don't break my plane, and then I left it on the desk and my toddler got to it. So, you know, yeah. So if anybody can find a CRJ 200 operated by SkyWest with that paint job, let me know. All right, but getting back to this audio, because this is an 11-minute thing, and we're only 50 minutes into the stream.
Ground Unit 2384 is declaring an emergency. The flight attendants in the back are feeling ill because of the odor. We will need to go into any available gate at this time.
Okay, roger that. Hey, this is Ed again. Do you guys have any gate for United? Because now they're declaring an emergency. They want to get out. Yeah.
Let me ask them. I'll call you right back.
Okay, roger that.
And it's phone tag.
Hey, it's Ed again, LaGuardia Tower. Now that United says he needs a gate, but so now he's declaring an emergency. But the ramp doesn't have a gate for him. Yeah, they're now.
We can get a stair truck if you need them to get off the plane.
Okay, yeah, do that just in case they want to come off. But so now he's on taxiway Alpha, just east of taxiway Kilo. All right, thanks, man. All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, so he was taxiway Bravo, just west of taxiway Kilo. So we're going to share this again. He is right here, right now. So think about where fire is coming from and where they have to go. That's a long road with multiple aircraft that you're dodging. Because remember, when they said they were going to take off, they were like 15th in line. So remember how busy this airport is. And just because one airline has an emergency does not mean that the world stops turning. It's standard operating procedure for most airports that if you are going to send fire out on the ramp, you have to have an emergency declared, just for safety issues. Go figure. But because you want them off of the tarmac, and they don't know what the odor was, so it wasn't a fire or anything like that. But the safest way to deplane is to get people back into the terminal, because if you deplane on the ramp, now you've got a bunch of passengers, and I don't know what kind of jet this was, so I don't know how many passengers, but now you have all these passengers out on the ramp with other active aircraft, creating yet another safety issue. So if you can deplane, if it is not an emergency where they're at risk of setting something on fire, you need to get back to the gate where you can deplane the passengers safely and get them back inside. It's well, they said it was an odor. They don't know exactly what, and that's the thing. They should have pulled the ramps, got people off the plane. That's what they were trying. And here's the thing: that's what they were trying to do. That's what they were trying to do. But see what I mean? As if they got back to the gate, they would not have to send out fire with a staircase. And in doing that, that's what caused the other accident. That's what caused the deaths of the two pilot in the Jazz Airways CRJ. So I see where you guys are coming from a passenger perspective. But from an operational and a safety perspective, the safest thing to do, if you know that it's not like a significant, we are going to, blow up right now, you need to get back to a gate where you can deplane those passengers safely and keep not only your passengers, your aircraft safe, but everybody else in the airport safe as well. So I understand where you guys are coming from a passenger perspective, but looking at it from an airport operations and the big picture, because we don't ever look at things here from the tiny, like one passenger perspective. We look at it from the big picture and look at the size of this airport and everything going on. 2 runways, 15 planes in line to take off, 30 minutes to take off from this airport. There's a lot going on besides one issue that we don't know what it is yet. And yes, it's an emergency, but it's not our plane is going to set on fire kind of emergency. So
the issue that I've got with this is the fact that, when an aircraft declares an emergency, it is a fucking emergency. When you've got odors in the aircraft, you have to understand that some odors or some gases are flammable. And what would have happened if that would have been a flammable gas, and then suddenly they're going, oh, there's boom.
Hey, Mom, would you like a link? Because you have more knowledge on this than me, because you've actually dealt with this personally.
Yes,
yes.
Sorry.
Hold on, I'm gonna send my mom a link.
Yay! Hey, I can't wait.
Let's
Wait a
go.
minute. Am I in trouble? No, I'm not. There.
No, but my mom is a former gate agent, so my mom has my mom has multiple occasions of deplaning aircraft that deplaning aircraft that have had emergencies, and not every emergency is life threatening. So think about that. Like, also these flight attendants were getting ill. So think about this. What is safer and quicker, to send out fire on the tarmac or get back to a gate where you can get medical personnel to those gate agents or those flight attendants faster? So like, I see you want everything to stop and take care of it, but just because one person has an issue does not mean the rest of the world stops turning.
Hi, Cynthia.
So you have to keep not only that plane safe and those passengers safe, but you have to keep the other thousands of people that are in your care safe too. It's a balancing act. And I understand where you guys are coming from, but that's just not the reality. I was talking to someone last night about the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial, and they had mentioned about her saying all kinds of things to medical personnel and first responders when they arrived. However, and they were like, aren't they supposed to document that? Yes, there is a difference between what the ideal situation and what you would document your patient saying and what is realistic in an emergency situation. So it's a thing. Like, yes, and though from the sounds of what the pilots are saying, going to a gate was a smaller risk than deplaning on the tarmac. So I don't know if my mom is still listening, but it is well known that a smell, even if harmless, will make people feel ill if they think it's doing that. And, you know, it's still don't know exactly what was causing it. However, you can't just stop everything at an airport this big because of one plane, especially if it's non-life threatening. If it was on fire, totally different situation. But he asked him, is it a fire? And he said no. And there's another issue. At this particular airport, the New York Port Authority handles fire and rescue, and not the airport itself.
What do you call it when one person feels ill and then suddenly everyone else sees it and then they start copying it?
So if you've ever seen a beached whale run with a backpack, this instant, I remember this. I was on this flight. I remember whenever CRJs landed, pulled into the gate, and the nose gear started on fire. People started jumping out the front door. I have never seen a beached whale run that fast. I have still to this day never seen someone that big and that fat run that fast. There was a gate agent, had to be like 300 pounds. She sprinted down the jet bridge to get to this flight, to move the jet bridge so people could get off the plane safely. Even though it was on fire, it was much safer for her to move the jet bridge to the plane than it was for. I was on the gate next door at the gate agent's counter waiting for my paperwork, and I saw this happen. I have never seen. Think about Fleesa trying to run. I have never seen that before, and I probably will never see that again. But I still remember that, and that was 2010. So 16 years later, I still remember that chick. I don't like that girl. I still don't like the girl. But watching someone that chunky, and I'm not skinny, but like, what I'm talking, like 3 times my size, sprint. This confirms it. That was the funniest thing I ever saw. I didn't know she could move that fast. All right, I gotta go do mama duties. Be right back. Bonnie, you're in charge.
No, what did I do wrong now? To be perfectly honest with you, I think that like that plane, you know, if it declared an emergency, it should have been priority on the ground, irregardless of what their opinion is. It should have been, yeah. There should have been some sort of priority for that aircraft.
All right. Unless you didn't do anything wrong, unless you want to switch places and be on mom IP duty. Just saying. Hey, Kelly. So you said, what did I do to deserve this? It was like, unless you want to switch places and be on PP duty. What's, can you hear her? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? Use your. I will be back. They should have brought it back to the gate in an instant. Well, what do you do when there's no gate? And what, Mom? I don't know if you were listening, but United 2384 could not get a hold of their ops. What's with that? Like, what is with that? My guess is her video stopped and she wants me to do it. She knows how. She wants me to do it. All right. So that's pretty much all that kind of happened here. So right there. So look how far it is away from the airport when they are requesting. I don't know, and this is where things kind of get iffy, is how delayed were they when they asked permission? How far away from the runway were they when they asked permission to cross? And Mom, I talked to a couple of former ramp agents. We only had to cross a landing or a taxiway. We didn't have to cross a runway to refuel our vehicles. So I never had to ask permission to cross a runway because I didn't have to cross a runway. I had to check with a couple of people because I could not remember. My brain was failing me. Shocker. So that's surprising. They could have also sent it to an open area and pulled the manual stairs up to it. Well, they were trying to pull manual. They were trying to get stairs to it. That's what truck one had. However, where? I mean, they could have crossed. They could have had the jet cross. Either way, somebody's got to cross a runway, whether it's the United flights or whether it's the fire truck. Somebody had to cross runway 4 because the plane, remember, plane was here. This plane was here. Fire is over here. Taxiway D is right in this area right here. So somebody had to cross runway 4. It was just who. So, well, never was, but definitely not anymore. Well, they're always, fire is never super close to airport, like the terminal. Like they're never like super, super close. They're always off in their own little thing. But, and they're actually not that far away because here's Terminal A and here's the fire station. So like Terminal A is over here. I don't know who's at Terminal A at LaGuardia. I didn't look for air carriers and what terminals they use. It wasn't important to me at the time. However, it's just, fire is not really off in La La Land like you'd think it would be. Like you would expect it would be when you say it's in basically off airport property. It's really not. It's just not
Yes,
close.
please.
So remember, there's planes landing and taking off in this area this whole time. So it's a fine dance. It's organized chaos.
Where's everyone gone so quiet?
So it just there were some images I didn't want to share, but they basically show graphics of not and now my internet, there we go. So
Truck one, stop truck one, stop truck one, stop.
So right there. And the thing that I find fascinating, on a rest in peace, bless their souls, these pilots kept that plane straight. Do you realize how straight that plane was on the runway? Seeing pictures of it? It's pretty much straight down the runway. It's not it's not twisted, it's not upside down. It's graphic. It's just not in the grass or anything like that. How they managed to do that, I don't understand. However, that's the audio leading up to maybe there's another question that we don't know. So we're going to watch the first NTSB from the 23rd. I think there was one on the 23rd, one on the 24th, and we're going to watch those. And Chairwoman Hammondy is my spirit woman. I love her dearly. If I could be like anybody on the if I could be like anybody in the world, it would be her, from a professional and her personality perspective. So we'll get into this.
As some of you may know, is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States, as well as significant events in other modes of transportation. We are independent. We are not part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. And why that is important to mention is that as part of our investigation, we also have oversight authority in the investigation over the Federal Aviation Administration. We're here to investigate a collision between a Bombardier CRJ-900 with an aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle while the aircraft was landing at LaGuardia last night around 11:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The airplane was operated by Jazz Aviation, doing business as Air Canada Express, Flight 8646. It had 72 passengers on board and 4 crew on board. 2 firefighters were in the firefighting vehicle. I want to just take a moment and, on behalf of the entire National Transportation Safety Board, express our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. We also know others have suffered injury, and our sympathies are with each of you as well. We'll mention we have 5 members of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Team here on scene, as well as the chief of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Division. They work in concert with the American Red Cross, and thank you to the American Red Cross, to provide resources and information about our investigation and what we are doing to those who lost loved ones, or those survivors or families of survivors throughout the investigation, not just here on scene, but as we move forward with our investigation through the final board meeting and sometimes after. We also expect to have around 25 specialists on site here on scene. That is in addition to many employees at the NTSB who are supporting this investigation back at headquarters in Washington, D.C. The team in total began to arrive at 3:10 a.m. Some are still en route, which means that we have not had a full day of investigation here today. And I think that's important because there are a lot of questions, and I understand there are a lot of questions. I've heard them on air traffic control. I've heard questions on the tower. I've heard questions on air traffic control communications. I've heard questions on the vehicle, many questions. And I know that you all have those questions, but I just want to set expectations. We have LaGuardia that was shut down. We had a ground stop at Newark today, and then we have DHS that shut down, and we have long TSA lines. We have our air traffic control specialist who was in line with TSA for 3 hours until we called in Houston to beg to see if we can get her through so we can get her here. So it's been a really big challenge to get the entire team here, and they're still arriving as I speak. Right up until about, I think the latest I saw was midnight, maybe 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it is a long travel day for many of those, and many are arriving by plane. We have had many that have come here by train, and so with that said, I do want to talk a little bit about what we were able to do today. We did a walking inspection of the scene. And we have a site commander doing a really important job, which is a safety walkthrough of the scene to make sure that our safety investigators or our investigators are safe while they are on scene. There is a tremendous amount of debris from taxiway Delta across runway 4 into some other areas. It's pretty expansive, and we want to make sure, because as you're walking around, you can get injured. There's also hazardous materials, of course, on the firefighting vehicle itself. So we want to make sure their safety. In addition, obviously, the tail of this aircraft is on the ground. And in order to get to the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, the Port Authority and the emergency responders cut a hole on the roof of the aircraft, dropped down, and was able to get the CVR and FDR for us, which then one of our investigators drove back to our labs in Washington, D.C. today, where they've been able to at least verify that the cockpit voice recorder was not damaged. They'll begin work on the FDR, the flight data recorder, tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have information to share. My hope is that we'll have information to share on that tomorrow in a press conference. We also began to collect information from FAA and others, certainly on air traffic control staffing in the tower, communications training. We're looking for information today from the fire and rescue department on their crew and on their vehicles, what the capabilities were of their vehicles, and
well, and here's the thing. So Gail's comment, they can seems like they just change names. Is it just me, or do they say the same thing every time, just change names and times? Because just like if you look at one of the preliminary reports, it's the same format. You basically, the way they have operational success is if they do the same thing every time. So it does seem like it's cookie cutter. However, it's standard operating procedures, and they have certain things that they need to do. And they do the same thing every time to make sure that nothing's missed. It's kind of like making people like a YouTube video who has the same intro every time. It's because they make sure that they hit their hook. They do a call to action to get people to like and subscribe. If they do it every time, they don't forget. Whereas me, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I'm all over the place because I'm mentally challenged. However, with that being said, they do the same thing every time to make sure that they don't mess it up. Kind of like ATC has the same scripts. Gate agents have scripts. The same scripts every time to make sure that they don't miss things. Ramp does things the same way every time to make sure they don't miss things. So it seems like they say the same thing every time. It's because they do pretty much the same things every time. They coordinate with different agencies. They have different different people. They tell you who's on the team. It's kind of the same thing. It's yeah. Well, technically he was the CEO of Republic, but yeah. That's a whole nother set of stories that I don't want to get into.
Everything from how much they weighed to what they were carrying. And then we began to form our investigative groups for this investigation. So we have an operations group that we have formed, and that will look at the operator itself as well as procedures and training for the aircraft. We will have a systems investigative group. That group will examine the components of the airplane's hydraulic, electrical, navigational, pneumatic, and associated systems, including instruments and flight control system. We have a structures group that will be documenting the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculating impact angles. And we have an air traffic control investigative group, as well as I mentioned a cockpit voice recorder and a flight data recorder group. And finally, we'll have an airport operations and survival factors combined group. That group will look at the airport rescue and firefighting operations at the airport, and they will look at injuries to occupants as it relates to the dynamics of this crash. I mentioned we have the CVR and FDR. We've also collected and have continued to collect surveillance video. We've asked the Federal Aviation Administration, who will be providing that a ASD replay of the event, ASD Airport Surface Detection Equipment replay of the event. And that is actually looking at the ASD display And
that's another thing that I want to talk about. I found an article from the Port Authority or from about the Port Authority that the Port Authority did not pay to have ASD transponders put in their fire vehicles at the airport. So that airport surveillance data, whatever ASD stands for, I always mess it up, so I'm just not going to say it. With that being said, from the reports I have, I do not have confirmation on this. She might mention it, but there was no transponder in that fire truck. So the monitoring of that system did not include fire and rescue vehicles. Not yet one more failure, and that's from the city of New York. That's not an airline failure. That's not an FAA failure. That is the city of New York. If that is true, did not pay to put those in their vehicles. That's an epic failure on the city of New York. I got nothing for that. Like, I don't even know where to go with that one, because when I heard that or when I read it, I was like, and I have not watched all of these. I listened to this one when it was live, but I was working. So like the cognitive attention span was not entirely on this press conference. This is why we're watching it together. However, yeah. And not necessarily that they didn't know 100% where those vehicles are, but that monitoring system where you can look at it and you can see everybody moving all at the same time where everybody is, because they have their transponders on and they're actively sending out a signal saying, here I am, here I am. They didn't, it is reported that they did not have those on board their fire vehicles. Why your guess is as good as mine, probably better. There is lots of failures with the city of New York. Yeah, and when I mean it's the city of New York and not the airport necessarily, it's because those fire vehicles belonged to the Port Authority, City of New York. Those were not LaGuardia airport vehicles. Whereas, like, it's just another epic, what the hell kind of situation. This one.
Yep.
Wrong one.
Was provided to the controller. And so we will be looking at that, where we can see where the aircraft was at certain times and whether the truck was visible on ASDI. We'll also be getting an ASDI analysis from the FAA's Tech Center. That will provide us information on whether alerts were generated and other data, including distance of the aircraft that was landing on runway 4 as the firefighting vehicle was approaching the runway from taxiway Delta. With that, I'm going to take some questions, but again, I just want to be clear. I know you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of detailed questions, and you want that information. I hope to provide more of that information tomorrow. I won't be able to provide a lot of that information tonight. We have a lot of data right now, a lot of information, including information on tower staffing, but the NTSB deals in facts. We don't speculate. We don't take one person at their word. We verify that information carefully before we provide it. So that is something we still have to do. With that,
and this is the reason I love her, because that is my whole mentality. Is I deal in facts. I don't deal in emotion necessarily. I don't deal in speculation unless it's me telling you that this is like the instantaneous unalivings of the pilots. Based on the look of the aircraft, I would say yes, but that's only me speculating because I don't have the actual documentation to prove that 100% accurate. It's one of the, that was me. That was me. I gifted my 5 of my 10 for the month of March because I remembered how to do it. It was just one of those situations where this is where I love her. She is my, like, spirit animal. If I could be anybody when I grow up, it's her. She's just me. Well, damn, that's why I love this. I'm glad you're here.
Take that. Can you provide your name and affiliation?
And she'll repeat the question.
Can I articulate some of the remaining questions that we have, particularly, well, for this investigation, for the accident itself, and particularly related to air traffic control? At this stage of the investigation, we don't limit ourselves. So we have questions on everything. And we look for everything, we collect everything. We may have information that comes our way that we didn't expect, so we don't rule anything out until later. So we have a lot of questions on everything.
And that's why when I'm reading documents, I just ask questions. And y'all look at me funny because I'm asking questions. It's like literally this is the stuff that comes to my head when I am thinking about things. And I am just taking you along for the cognitive process that is the inside of my head. It's scary in here. It can't always predict what's going to come out. However, I just ask questions because this is my process. Like what she's saying, we don't rule anything out. We just collect information. That's what I do. And Jean, thanks for being here. My husband is a retired airline captain, and this airport is known as a shit show by about 90% of pilots, and it's getting worse. I can imagine that. I would, if your husband would ever like to talk about his experiences, not on a live stream, but just, help me out with some things and answer some questions for me, because the only pilots that I really ever talk to these days are pilots that are still in the military, and while they can relate, they have completely different life experiences and have never piloted a CRJ or anything near a CRJ, and cannot speak on this topic. And just like Mr. Squid, when I ask him hypotheticals, look at me like I'm freaking out of my mind. So do naval aviators. Squid, where your mind wandered, your body will follow. Yeah, well, remember, I had brain surgery, which proves one thing. The doctors literally saw my brain, put their hand on my brain, and proved that I have one. It might not work as it's advertised to. However, it is there. Yeah. This is about ATC falling short, too many channels in one plane, stepping on another, communications and emergency on yet another channel. Yeah, that's in my opinion. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you there. However, this is also a monumental failure, in my opinion, from United Airlines. Not from the pilots of that jet that had an emergency, but the fact that they couldn't get a hold of their air traffic or their airport ops to get a gate assignment or to figure out where they could go. They were in limbo. If they would have either gotten a hold of their ops and their ops said, yes, we have a gate for you, they would have gone back to the gate, deplaned, never had to have fire and rescue come out onto the tarmac, and never would have been in this situation. And or they could have said, no, we don't have a gate for you, and air traffic control, and this is just my opinion, could have sent them somewhere permanent, so to speak, instead of being in this limbo of, we're going to move you here while you're waiting, we're going to move you here while you're waiting. It's like they could have sent them somewhere knowing that they didn't have a gate. But the fact that they couldn't get a hold of United Airport operations was an epic failure on the airline's part, which I believe directly was just another link in the chain of events that led to this. All the holes lining up in the Swiss cheese. That's just my, am I sure what? Like, am I sure what? That they couldn't get a hold, that the audio proved that they couldn't get a hold of their airport ops, and ATC was trying to call and get a hold of ramp for United Airlines. It's so bizarre. Something that possibly happens multiple times, but should never happen. So.
Yes.
On this tower, can you at least tell us how many controllers were in the tower? Was it that air traffic controller vehicle? Now, was that and also ground control and air traffic control at the same time? Any information on the pilot?
Yeah, the question is, can I provide information regarding staffing in the tower? Can I provide information on who what position the controller held that was communicating? And can I provide information about the pilot backgrounds at this time? Not at this time. I will have that information tomorrow. Do we have information? Yes. But we need to verify that information before we provide it. It's just preliminary information, and we aren't able to provide it yet. We still have to do it. The question is, how do we go about verifying it? We have to look at records. There's sign-in sheets. We have to do interviews. We have to look at time cards. There's a lot of information and then official records from the airline. So that is information we always have to corroborate. David, and then I'm going to come over here.
Mother.
Tell us where the Air Canada Express plane was when the controller gave the order to let the fire truck cross. Can you say anything about the experience of the controllers?
The question is where was the aircraft when the controller gave clearance for the truck, the firefighting truck to cross, and what was and the experience of the controllers. The experience of the controllers we still have to look at on where the aircraft was. That is actually that's part of what we hope to get from the FDR, which we'll get hopefully tomorrow, the flight data recorder, but then also from the ASDI analysis that the tech center will provide us. The question is, did the pilots follow all the instructions? We still have to have the cockpit voice recorder verified and analyzed by all the group members before we can provide any information on that. Yes.
Why is it that they're trying to find blame in the pilots, considering that they just fucking completed a full land and they were on runoff?
Yeah, it's almost like in the DC collision when they were asking about all the pilots in the CRJ, and they were talking about them like, did they follow? They're on final approach, like they're focused, like it's not like they're bobbing and weaving all over the place or coming in too fast.
Bouncing down. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like this aircraft just completed a full land, was in the process of slowing down and probably in full reverse. And then suddenly there's a fucking a fire truck in front of them.
Yeah, like this doesn't have the agility of like your car.
Jesus.
Like this is the CRJ-200s with a broken tail, so take it for what it's worth. However, like the CRJ-900 has 2 overwing exits. This only has 1. It's about 20 more passengers long, but it's the same general airframe. So think about this. This is not agile at all. This is just not. No, when it's on the ground, it's less agile than it is when it's in the air. So think about, I mean, like when people ask certain questions, I'm like, do you know what an airplane looks like? Like it's coming in like this. It touches its back landing gear down. Holy crap, I could not think of the word landing gear for some reason. Touches its front landing gear and instantly puts on the brakes. It's not like it can see a fire truck and go, whoop, I'm just going to turn out of the way. No, you're going to have more people. You're going to have a bigger problem on your hands if you try to turn this thing with a quickness at 150 miles an hour. Like it, I'm just like, yo, I understand that you need thoroughness and questions have to be asked, but like, I feel like there's a better way of asking that question besides making yourself look like you didn't pass high school physics. But that's just my personal opinion. I am opinionated, as you've noticed. If you didn't know, and if you are new here, I am opinionated. But I'm also open to being wrong. My opinion is not always correct, but it's mine. Yes, the fire truck could stop faster than the plane. Yeah. Hey, Stacy. How are you? It's a full investigation. They do this every time. Yeah, and I generally don't like to watch the first one, especially when it's late at night and they just got there and all that. Because this was less than 24 hours. This was Monday night at like 7 o'clock. So but I understand that I love Jennifer Homendy. When I say this, like, she would be someone who I would love to have a conversation with because her personality is so like straight to the point, and like mine, I'm a little more brash than she is. She's professional, but she'll say some things where I'm like, what, an AT2 opinionated and petty? Say it ain't so. Yeah, listen, AT1. Hey, Kitty Buck. My opinion is always correct till it's not. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
The question is on the shift of the controllers. Again, this was a mid shift. Typically, and again, I'm just going to say this preliminarily, it could be different tomorrow. The shift might run 10:30 to 6 a.m., but we have to verify that, and we have to verify how long the controllers were on before they took over and when the shift change was.
She says something in here that's like, I love her for saying what she said, and I think it's this next question. But this is why I don't take
the question is, well, first let me there was a question on whether there was a crew member ejected on impact. We don't answer those questions. I would refer you to the chief medical examiner for New York City. That person can answer those questions. We don't comment on, fatalities or injuries at this stage. And your other question was what protocols exist between, say, airport operations and with respect to firefighting and aircraft landing. That is part of our investigation, and we'll be looking at that throughout this investigation. Well, hold on. The question is how many are on shift typically? That's still something we have to verify with our air traffic control team.
And I know it seems like they're asking questions and she's not giving answers, but there's reasons.
The question is, how long will that runway be closed for us to conduct our investigation? It's going to take some time. I just want to express how much there is a lot of debris. We need to go through all of that and to figure out what we need to take back to the NTSB, to our labs, what we might want to collect. First and foremost, what we need to take pictures of to document that evidence. That's all evidence. And we need to document that first. Then we need to collect some of that evidence. Then we get to that. It's going to be days. I'm not sure.
What kind of information is shared?
Yeah, so we'll be working with the Transport Safety Board of Canada, and we work with ICAO under Annex 13. So the Transport Safety Board of Canada is the state of, will come from Canada to represent Canada, and they'll have technical advisors with them from the operator and I believe from the manufacturer as well. And we coordinate on scene just like other investigations, just like we would participate in foreign investigations as well. They are also part of our team for fact finding. Last one. Can I speak to what would happen? So I think the question is what is currently happening with that air traffic controller. Typically, they would be removed from duty, and certainly it's pretty traumatic for that air traffic controller as well. And we'll want to interview that air traffic controller as well as others that were in the tower or maybe not even in the tower. With respect to what that individual is.
Well, Stacy, I agree with you to a point. They want to know standard policies. However, she'll get to a section about why she doesn't give answers to things. And it's pretty, she doesn't deal with hypotheticals. She doesn't like hypotheticals. She doesn't deal with hypotheticals. She's a fact-based person, and she's not going to give an answer out that may be wrong. And every airport has different operating procedures. Every airport and every airline has different SOPs. So it's working with all of those people to see, it's like a lawsuit and working with different districts and different courts and different judges. They all want something different and they all have different expectations. And knowing LaGuardia's SOP when you're from DC is not, and then with the amount of investigations that they do, because if you go to NTSB's website, they do a lot of investigations. And it's one of the situations where if she speaks wrong, they print wrong and then they blame her and make her look like the ass.
No, okay.
No, I gave her a spoonful and she said no bigger. That's all you get until dinner. Okay? You're welcome. So it's different for everything. And King Bob, thanks for being a member for 18 months. Did you see my gifted memberships? Or did I miss? I did. I just hadn't got there yet. But thanks, King Bob, for gifting 5 Squid Pro Club memberships. I appreciate you guys. And I need to do a members only soon. Probably next week we'll do a members only live stream. So
doing right now, I would have to refer that to the Federal Aviation Administration. Again, that was the last question. I understand that you have a lot of questions and want detailed information. But I just want to remind you that what would happen if I gave you wrong information, unverified information right now? You would do an entire story on unverified information, and tomorrow I'd have to tell you it's wrong. And then you'd be mad at me again for different reasons.
Exactly. Perfectly said right there. You'd print wrong information and then you'd be mad at me and have to tell you everything. You'd be mad at me for different reasons. They're always going to be mad at her because they don't get what they want. They want what they want and they want it right now. But what you want, you don't always get. We don't always get what we want in this life. And
so what I'm going to tell you is we are world-renowned investigators, but we deal in facts. And if we are not able to verify those yet, and we haven't been able to, we can't provide those. We have a lot of information, but we need to be able to verify that information and provide it to you. We will do our best to provide you as much information as possible tomorrow.
And that is one of the reasons that I absolutely love her, is because she is like, no. I already told you no more. So she does not deal in hypotheticals. She needs to verify before she gives stuff to the media. And that right there is how you know that at least one person in our government has integrity. Our government as a whole sucks major backside. However, at least you know one person has integrity, and you might not get the answers you want, but you will get correct answers when she gives you those answers. Like somebody else I know. Let's read the questions. Okay.
I'm still here, guys. I'm just having dinner. I do apologize. I shall be with you as soon as I can richly force all this food into my face and then swallow it without tasting it.
No, I'm just dumb. I didn't share the right tab.
At 2 minutes and 17 seconds, the LaGuardia Tower cleared the airplane to land on runway 4 and advised that they were number 2 for landing. At time 1 minute and 52 seconds, the flight crew set the flaps to 30 degrees. At 1 minute and 33 seconds, the flight crew set the flaps to 45 degrees. At 1 minute and 26 seconds, an electronic 1000 call out occurred from the enhanced ground proximity warning system, indicating that the airplane was 1,000 feet above the ground. At 1 minute and 12 seconds, the flight crew confirmed that the landing checklist was complete. At 1 minute and 3 seconds, an airport vehicle made a radio transmission to the tower, but that transmission was stepped on by another radio transmission, and the source of who made that transmission has yet to be identified. At 54 seconds, the flight crew acknowledged that the airplane was
Interesting. They were stepped on. yet again, another radio transmission stepped on. Why in 2026 are we operating in this situation? Let's put it that way. Hey, Ninja Puppy. And Snipe, I was wondering if you watch something. Yeah, I forgot to hit the share this tab because that was me. Or I thought I hit it, but maybe I didn't click it enough. I don't know. Either way, it was my mistake. But
500 feet above the ground and on a stable approach. At 40 seconds, the LaGuardia tower asked which vehicle needed to cross a runway. At 28 seconds, Truck 1 made a radio transmission to the tower. At 26 seconds, the tower acknowledged that radio transmission. At 25 seconds, Truck 1 requested to cross runway 4 at taxiway Delta. At 20 seconds, the tower cleared Truck 1 and company to cross runway 4 at taxiway Delta. At 19 seconds, an electronic 100 enhanced ground proximity warning system callout occurred.
okay, so with 19 seconds or 20 seconds, they were given clearance to cross. And 19 seconds, the plane was 100 feet above the ground. So this also makes me wonder, where exactly was the fire truck when it asked for permission to cross? Was it right at the runway or was it near a taxiway? And because remember, this is the airport we're looking at. So this is where they crossed over here, taxiway Delta. So they were headed this way over to this aircraft right here, this blue X, United 2489 or 20 something. Anyway, a United flight. So that being said, did they ask for permission to cross when they were at taxiway AA? Were they at the end of were they at the runway ready to cross when they asked for permission? Because if they were back here, going 20 seconds would take a long, it would be a long 20 seconds. But if they were already at the runway, say like right here where my cursor is, 20 seconds, you might be able to get across the runway then. So there's another question that comes to mind, and something that just doesn't add up is, when did they ask for permission to cross? Where were they? And that's where that transponder would come in handy. But it's been reported, like I said, don't know if it's confirmed yet. It has been reported by a couple outlets that the Port Authority fire trucks did not have transponders, which really would freaking suck. That's true. But just putting that into perspective of when they're talking about time frames, the plane is landing this way and the taxiway is right here. So I need to put a line on this. That's where I hadn't gotten to yet, because this morning, toddler's going to toddle. There's a video that coordinates with permission to ask, or all of their trucks didn't move after they asked. Something's wrong here. And I don't know. I have seen a couple of videos, but I have not really paid much attention to where the actual trucks were. And I don't want to show the videos on screen and on camera for obvious reasons. If I need to explain why I don't want to share collision pictures or video on screen, then this might not be the channel for you. But just saying. But remember, this is the airport diagram and we work in facts here, and keeping all this information straight is why I keep referring back to the diagram. So when they say 19 seconds or 20 seconds, they asked for permission, but where were they? Like, that makes a difference, because if you're all the way back here and you're asking for permission to cross, of course, the math works a little too well. So it's just a weird situation, which is why we wait for more information. Because
the runway crossing clearance. At 14 seconds, an electronic 50 call out. At 12 seconds, an electronic 30 call out. And at that same time, the tower instructed a Frontier Airlines flight to hold position. At 11 seconds, an electronic 20 call out occurred. And at 10 seconds, an electronic 10 call out occurred. At 9 seconds, the tower instructed truck 1 to stop. At 8 seconds, there was a sound consistent with the airplane's landing gear touching down on the runway. At 6 seconds, there was a pilot transfer of controls from one pilot to the other. And at 4 seconds, the tower again instructed truck 1 to stop. At 0 seconds, the recording ended. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
There was no way.
Imagine that 6 seconds before.
Huh?
I mean, I'm eating my dinner, but there is no way on this planet that those pilots had any chance whatsoever. They were still they were basically landing. And for 10 seconds, no way. There is no. So basically, the ATC operator, right, is at full blame to this, and so is the guys at the fire engine. Okay, I think they preempted the go ahead, but at the same time, the ATC guy, he was doing so much that he basically wasn't paying attention to. Well, hang on a minute, you got a plane landing, you're letting a fucking fire engine going across the runway. And bing, bam, boom, there you go. There's your freaking answer. That plane had no chance whatsoever on this planet to even react to that. In 10 seconds, absolutely not. I didn't even realize that's how quick it happened. I thought they actually landed and rolled into them.
Oh, they were still at 30 feet 6 seconds before the crash.
But it wasn't. They actually hit the ground. They landed. Bang.
Yep. They were still 30 feet above the ground 6 seconds before the crash. Like, this is...
Mutant.
For the end of the recording, the pilot transferred controls. We do know that the first officer was flying and transferred control to the captain. With respect to aircraft rescue and firefighting operations, we will be developing a timeline of events. We do know that they were responding to a United Airlines flight 2384 at the gate, which had 2 aborted takeoffs, and the ARF, or the aircraft rescue and firefighters, had received information that there were fumes or a smoke or some sort of smell in the cabin, so they were en route to address that.
And that was the audio that we listened to at the beginning of the stream.
Truck 1, which Mr. Brazy had mentioned, had collided with the aircraft. We do know that there were other vehicles behind Truck 1, which did not begin to cross the runway. We have seen varying information about how many vehicles, so we need to verify that information, and we'll provide it at a later time. Truck 1, however, did not have a transponder.
There we go. That's what I was waiting for. And I did not watch this one because I had heard that and I wanted to watch it with you guys, because that right there, Truck 1 did not have a transponder. Why did Truck 1 not have a transponder? $1 million question.
With respect to air traffic control, we have seen different information about how many certified professional controllers were in the facility. And we need to verify that starting with interviews this afternoon. We'll begin to interview the local controller at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We do have logs, but there's also conflicting information, including dates and times on the logs. So now we have to go through that and rectify some of those inconsistencies. We do, however, know that there were 2 people in the cab, 2 people in the tower cab at the time of collision, the local controller and the controller in charge. Again, local controller and controller in charge. For those who may be watching and aren't familiar with aviation, the local controller manages active runways and the immediate airspace surrounding the airport. That local controller had signed on at 10:45, and the shift would have ended at 6:45 a.m. That doesn't mean that he was in position at 10:45, but that he had just signed in at 10:45 p.m. The controller in charge is responsible for safety of operations, all safety of operations. He had clocked in or signed in at 10:30 p.m. And that shift would have ended at 6:30 a.m. Again, that was signing in at 10:30 p.m. The controller in charge was also doing the duties of the clearance delivery position. That the clearance delivery controller provides pilots with their departure clearance. It is not clear who was conducting the duties of the ground controller. We have conflicting information. We have some information saying it was the controller in charge. We have some information saying it was the local controller. The ground controller duties are that they manage all aircraft and vehicle movements on the taxiways, and that generally excludes active runways.
I wonder why there's conflicting information. Like, who's covered? Like, initially, I want to say there's just a whole bunch of information that they need to sort through. But my cynical brain goes, being what I know about the FAA, and we've heard the FAA not being cooperative with the NTSB in the DC collision investigation.
May I interject?
What? Yes.
I believe the reason they're not fucking discussing anything or disclosing anything is because I think they already know who to blame. However, they have to cross their T's and dot their I's because this is more in depth than they're actually saying. The fact that the way they've been mentioning stuff and the way they're mentioning it, they already know who's to blame. But the problem is they have to cross their T's, dot their I's, and put an abbreviation mark at the end of it because like they can't say it's pilot error because the pilots had no chance whatsoever. So let's just remove those guys from the equation. We are looking at the two in the cab of the fire engine, and we're looking at the ATC. Personally, if like the vehicle doesn't have a transponder, yeah, I think that
Yet another breakdown, because if the vehicle would have had a transponder, they would have been able to, air traffic control would have been able to, but with the air surveillance data ASD.
Yeah, they would have seen where they are and basically avoided this.
So it's multiple failures. But here's the thing: the specific thing she said about conflicting information. My cynical brain instantly goes for who's covering whose ass. And French Psycho, when Volusia said CYA, he said that's a American acronym for cover your ass. So
yeah, but they definitely. I mean, from the sounds of it, what I'm getting from this is basically she knows, they already know who's to blame. They already know.
Sometimes it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to put two and two together, you know?
No.
Like there's only a limited number of suspects, so to speak, when there's three parties: the truck, the plane, and air traffic control. And the limited parties, it's not the pilots, because the pilots were given clearance to land. It's not like they were told to go around and they landed anyway. It's down to a 50-50 chance of ATC or the truck. Like it's not this isn't rocket surgery. Yes. And Stacey, thanks for being a member for 3 months. Thank you, Squid, for this coverage. Noah, thank you for being here. I appreciate this, and all 35 people that are here. I appreciate this. I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I love aviation. It is my background. It is the first adult job I had outside of the military. It is the job I had in the military. Mr. Squid has worked in aviation for 20 years. My mom worked in aviation. Like it's a passion. And I love it. I wanted to go into aviation when I got out of the military, but I was told at that time the aviation industry sucks. There's no way you're going to get anywhere in it, so you might as well not try. And I listened to that like an idiot. So I went to school for something different. But I could have got my AMP and worked in aviation too. I would have loved it. And Stacey, thanks for the 5 gifted Squid Pro Quo memberships. I appreciate you so very, very much. And everybody who's here, please hit that like button. There's one person. I've lost 2 subscribers during this stream, 3 subscribers, and one person hit the dislike button. So y'all, y'all.
I mean, the thing, this is what I mean, like, I don't really care this, like, whatever, but what I do care about is people, look, if you don't like the topic, why are you here? Come back when we're talking about something else. I mean, this topic is not a joke. It's, you know, unfortunately, 2 members of air crew lost their lives. Right?
Yeah, and we might joke about things on this channel, but we're always cognizant and respectful of the fact that people lost their lives, and that even though we have some dark humor on this channel, that's a fact that we're respectful of and we can't get around. So it's you know, but let's get back into this, and then when this is over, we will call it a day because we are at 2 hours.
So these 2 positions were combined into 2 positions. And what we do know is that that is in the standard operating procedures for LaGuardia. It's for the midnight shift. It's also common practice across the national airspace where you would have 2 controllers in the tower cab during the midnight shift. The midnight shift, as a reminder, is one that we have many times that the NTSB raised concerns about with respect to fatigue. Again, I do not know. We have no indication that was a factor here, but it is a shift that we have been focused on in past investigations. Now, we also know, as I had mentioned yesterday, that LaGuardia has ASDX. ASDX is a runway safety system which allows air traffic controllers to track surface movement of aircraft and vehicles. Yesterday, I mentioned that we requested from FAA the ASD replay of the event. That is a replay of the display of information that would have been available in the tower cab. We also asked the tech center for the analysis of ASD. Their analysis shows that the ASDX system did not alert. The analysis, and I'm going to quote the analysis here. I will repeat it a second time. ASDX did not generate an alert due to the close proximity of vehicles merging and unmerging near the runway, resulting in the inability to create a track of high confidence. Again, the analysis is, quote, ASDX did not generate an alert due to the close proximity of vehicles merging and unmerging near the runway, resulting in the inability to create a track of high confidence. Now, I saw the replay, and there were 2 targets, so radar, because there's no transponder, you have radar. So 2 targets with radar returns on taxiway Delta. What it looks like on a replay are 2 blobs on taxiway Delta. We also don't see any of them go in front of the plane on the runway. We do also know from the replay that the runway status lights were functioning according to the replay, but we still have to verify that with tech ops from the FAA. Now, I do want to address one thing, which is reports of distraction. I have seen a number of reports from press about distraction, whether there was distraction among controllers. Look, I would caution pointing fingers at controllers and saying distraction was involved. This is a heavy workload environment. You had a United Airlines flight. We still have to determine what happened at shift change, which was around 10:30. We have to determine who else was in the tower and the facility and available at the time. We know that controller was still on duty for several minutes afterwards. Normally, they would be relieved. We have questions about that. Was anybody available to relieve that controller? We don't know that yet. We also have questions about what else was occurring, what other traffic they were dealing with at the time. So one thing I will close with before I take questions is we rarely, if ever, investigate a major accident where it was one failure. Our aviation system is incredibly safe because there are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many, many things went wrong. And so here, that's why we're here. We're here to prevent this from reoccurring, prevent this from happening again. And that's going to take some time. So with that, I will take questions. I ask that you raise your hand, state your name and your affiliation. So there's a little bit of a difference in the question is on combining positions, because we saw the combining of positions in the mid-air collision that occurred near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport about a year ago.
That's what I was thinking. Like, this is why I love her, because I think things and she says it. And I'm like, I didn't think that, she would bring it up. I just was like, combining positions, the first thing my brain goes to is DC. And she mentioned DC, and it was like, whoa. Like I said, yeah, in my opinion, not pilot error. Yeah, of course. Yeah. This lady speaking has incredible patience and a good way to explain situations. You are also providing good commentary from your area of expertise. Yeah, I was ramp, so I've crossed active landing ways before, or not landing ways, not runways, but taxiways. We did not have to cross an active runway to get to where I needed to go on airport property. However, even that was like head on swivel. I have permission to cross. I don't see anything coming, but you're always like doing this like look around you thing because you are hyper vigilant. And I don't know, and this is just my personal experience, I am hyper vigilant because I was on a flight deck. If you weren't hyper vigilant, you died. So I don't understand certain people when they look and they're like, oh, I don't see anything, and then they stop looking, and I'm like, I just don't understand that mentality. It's like, no, you keep looking, and you keep looking until you're done with what you're doing. Like, you don't just go, oh, it's clear. No, look both ways before you cross the street and keep looking. I just yeah, in my opinion, ATC is undermanned and overworked. Errors will be made. Yeah. Yep. The other fire truck stopped on the runway when the person said, stop, stop, stop. 3 or 4 trucks didn't move. Only truck 1 moved. Yeah. And here's the thing, too. We not only need to prevent this from happening again, but in my opinion, we need to start holding people criminally liable when they do things that are against procedure and don't listen. Yeah, there might have been people stepping on the radio, but when everybody else stops and you don't, everybody else heard something, everybody else saw something, and you didn't, and that's negligence. Exactly. As a passenger in a car, I still check if the roads are clear, even though the driver is doing so. It's instinctive. You know,
our understanding right now, and again, this is preliminary and subject to change. Our understanding is that in the DCA midair, there were procedures followed, a list like traffic volume, staffing available, training, workload that was considered in order to combine positions like the helicopter position and local control position in DCA. In this situation for the midnight shift, it is standard operating procedure that they only have 2 on duty, and those 2 perform the duties of other controllers. That is our understanding right now. However, we're going to further dig into that as part of our investigation. Certainly, I can tell you that our air traffic control team has stated this is a problem, that this is a concern for them for years, that they have had this concern for quite a long time. I can understand it's a concern, especially if there's a heavy workload. Well, the question is, how upset does it make me that ASDX didn't work? Because we've repeatedly recommended that ASDX work. Well, in order for ASDX to work well, you have to know where ground vehicles and aircraft are. So in this case, that vehicle did not have a transponder. And it would have been helpful when you have a radar, radar target, it does not provide you with the information that you need like it would for an aircraft as a controller. Yes.
and that's the thing. If it would have had a transponder, it wouldn't have looked like a blob. You would have been able to see and identify exactly what it is. We had a system sort of like that on the plane I worked on. Can't tell you what it is. It's classified. But I could see other planes and tell you what they were, where they were, how far out they were. It was great. However, with that being said, you need a transponder in order for that to happen. And New York did not put a transponder in at least this particular vehicle. And the fact that it was Fire Truck 1 means it's their main vehicle. And if they didn't put it in the first one, subsequent vehicles after that, they probably didn't have them in that either. Just saying. Do air traffic controls have to re-psych eval every year offhanded, not trying to imply everything is? I do not know. I was acquaintances with an air traffic controller. He was my neighbor back in the day, but I have not talked to him in about 10 years. So it's one of those people that you don't want to reach out to because you don't know if they remember you. but I don't have an air traffic control source to ask these questions to. So.
Is there any indication from the CVR that the pilot saw the fire truck on the runway? I don't have information at this time on that. However, we are doing further analysis on our cockpit voice recorder. We have a group that we have formed that will analyze the CVR. And part of when they analyze is they will talk in the group about what they're hearing, what they've heard, any sort of background noises, and we'll provide a transcript, and then we'll release that publicly. So we'll know more then.
With regard to the midnight shift, is it literally a midnight shift that you expressed concerns about in the past, or is it sort of that later shift when there's typically less traffic at an airport? The reason I ask it is around this time, late at night on a Sunday night at LaGuardia, there's still lots of arrivals. To that degree, does that raise questions about the protocol and staffing here at this airport?
Well, so the question is about the shift. And are we just concerned about that shift in the past, or would there be other shifts? And does it make sense to have two controllers in the cab with such a busy airport, and this be sort of standard operating procedures and common practice across the national airspace? I think I restated it accurately and have now forgotten what you asked me. But on your standard operating procedure, on the standard operating procedures, look, LaGuardia is 900 flights, I believe, per day. That's pretty substantial. It's not the same as other airspace or other airports across the national airspace. That's certainly something we will look at as part of this investigation. How that would that make sense? You know, why would that make sense at LaGuardia? We will. That is part of our analysis in this investigation. And what was the other one? So on the mid shift, we have identified the mid shift generally as concern in other investigations, largely due to fatigue, because it spans that time frame at your circadian low during the day when you're most fatigued. Yes.
So, Chucky, this was actually the second incident. Because the first incident, if you want to go back to the very beginning of the stream when this is over and be on replay crew, we did listen to the audio of that United flight 2384 and air traffic control and what was going on. They had two aborted landings. They were positioned in a place on one of the taxiways where, in order for fire and rescue to get to them, they had no gate to get back into. So they had to stay where they were. In order for fire and rescue to get to them, to get them a stairway to deplane, they had to cross runway 4. And that's when they were crossing runway 4 in order to get to that United plane, that's when this happened.
The question was, could there potentially be confusion among the two controllers of who's having what discussion, and could it be that they were both having the same communications?
No. Hello?
We got disconnected.
You
sorry.
did.
Two aborted takeoffs. And if it landed it, yeah, that's what I meant. 2 aborted takeoffs. Sorry, I misspoke. It's been a long stream.
Yeah. I just
accident.
Yeah.
I just think that I find this whole thing strange. I'm getting a feeling like every time.
What's your spidey senses telling you?
Yeah.
What are your spidey senses telling you?
I think she's blowing smoke at the moment, because the thing is, they already, like I said earlier on, they already know who's to blame. But what they're doing, they're just sort of like entertaining the press, so to speak. Right? Because the thing is, you go like, okay, there's multiple controllers, yeah, but the thing is, if you listen to the voice communication, people are identified by suffix. So there's always United 6, blah, blah, blah. There's always, I don't know what the fire truck was called again, ground 1 or whatever. There's always a call sign. So at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
but this is, remember, this is only 48 hours after it happened, so they have a lot of information to analyze. So they might have an
I just get the
idea.
feeling they already know, Squid.
I don't see. I'm going to disagree with you on that. I don't think they already
Okay.
know. I think they have an idea, but once again, she doesn't work in hypotheticals. She needs all the information, and there is so much data and so much stuff to go through that you need to do a thorough investigation. You can have a theory, because you go on a working theory. I think this happened, but you don't automatically do that because that's no better than the cops in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, I'm just getting that vibe, you know, that my spidey senses are telling me that there's things they're not telling, which I can understand because it's still a ongoing investigation. But I'm just getting that feeling.
And I don't know. I think they have a working theory, which I don't think they have anything, like, they're confident about anything yet, because they've been doing this a long time. So, and they know that you could have a working theory and then all of a sudden your working theory goes to shit. So, but we're almost done with this
scenario. Those are the exact types of questions that we'll ask when we interview the controllers, both the two that were in the cab at the time and the other controllers that may have been on duty either and include previously or after that. One thing I want to do is come back to something that Pete asked about, which is controllers and the information they should have. And as DX in our past recommendations, controllers should have all the information and the tools to do their job. All the information they need. We've recommended ASDX, but you have to have information on ground movements, or, you know, whether that's aircraft or vehicles moving on the airport, in taxiways, on runways. They should have all the information. This is 2026. You know, the secretary talks about upgrading our air traffic control system. We have an old air traffic control system. This is why he talks about that. We need to upgrade, but we also need to improve safety across the air. It's not just air traffic control. It's safety all around. Yes.
It wasn't minutes. It was seconds.
Okay. With respect to transponders, the question is it common for ground vehicles to have transponders? I don't have the latest figures on that. I would suggest speaking with the Federal Aviation Administration on that, or you can contact Eric and we'll get back to you on numbers. Should they? That's something we'll determine as part of our investigation. I will tell you that not having a recommendation, yeah, they should. Even though we don't have a recommendation, air traffic controllers should know what's in, you know, before them, whether it's on airport surface or in the airspace. They should have that information to ensure safety. Now, that's not an NTSB recommendation, so I want to be clear, but it could be. We don't know. And your other question on stepped on, the communication was stepped on, it means it may have been a mic key or some sort of interference or interruption of the transmission. Because somebody else on the other, why would that be significant? He was asking the question on what does stepped on mean with respect to communications. That would be significant because that would mean that somebody may not hear the other part of that communication. Yes, sir? No. Oh, go ahead. Data recorder. We don't have information, the download from the flight data recorder yet. That group, I believe, is getting together today to start going through the data. We do have good data, but they're going to start looking at it today, and we'll provide further information down the line. You and then you.
Similar to that question, based on your time, was there any evidence that the truck tried to swerve or brake across the runway?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can I confirm the names of the pilots who passed away? No, I would refer you to the New York City Chief Medical Examiner. We don't confirm any fatality.
Huh?
What a fucking rude question to ask. Can I have the names of the pilots, please? No, you fucking can't.
And Chucky, I see your point. They should have held traffic. Unfortunately, once again, I mentioned it in the beginning of the stream, so I'll refer you back to that. But basically, this is a large airport, and I understand narrowly focused as a passenger wanting to stop things to feel safer. However, in real time, you can't shut everything down and stop the world from turning because there's one issue. When generally there's issues all the time handled by controllers all over this country that are dealt with no issues. So I see your point to a point. However, there is a difference between what is ideal and what is functional. And what is ideal and what is functional are not always the same thing. So, planes can circle airports for hours. Not necessarily. Not on an airport like this that is generally busy, has a lot of traffic, and has a lot of traffic from overseas. And cross-country flights. This isn't like Milwaukee to Madison or Savannah to Atlanta. These aren't short hop flights that you can have a lot of fuel, excess fuel. These are flights from Paris, London, LA that are possibly running low on fuel. This flight was coming from, I believe, Montreal. So these were not like short flights. So remember, they just because they can in an ideal world, functionally that's not always the case when you're running low on fuel.
These injuries or names. And your other question? With respect to the truck, did the truck turn and brake?
JFK is also busy. And just like the United flight that didn't have a gate to go back to, JFK probably doesn't have an extra gate to handle overflows. This is not, like I said, what seems like an easy and ideal situation, it's never that easy. It's never that easy.
Or break. I've probably seen the same CCTV video that you have. We have to do some further investigation on that, including interviews of both firefighters that were on board. And right here. The question is, do we know if the two firefighters in the firefighting vehicle heard the directive to stop? We don't know that yet. We need to do interviews of those two firefighters. David.
And remember, this was only less than 48 hours after. This was 2 days ago. They have more information probably now than they had during this. However, I just didn't get the opportunity to cover it sooner. So we are covering it now. Jesus, this is a long question.
The first question on other technology that would have been available to alert to the controllers. I don't have that to provide at this time. Our investigators have to begin their analysis. Again, this is our first full day on scene, and we're not even through the day, but we will have more information on what types of technology might have been available to them. The second question is on whether ADSB in and out would have helped prevent this. I would just caution, and I've heard the discussion on ADSB in and out with respect to this particular collision. It happened very quickly.
I got a shoe off. Thank you very much for tonight. Thank
no problem
for being here. And let's look forward to the NTSB report on this, because I think this is going to be a quite short one, but
possibly.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you very much. Sorry I didn't talk a lot. It's just I've been doing about 3 different things.
I get it. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, and big hugs to everybody. Hugs to Litland and Mama Squid. Hugs. Squid, tentacle lady, hugs, and I'll see you later.
All right, see ya. Bye, Mom, they only put enough fuel in a plane to get from point A to point B. It all depends on how much cargo they're carrying, how many passengers, and luggage weight. Yeah, stupid cargo is what gave me that nice little freaking scar on my hand. It's just yeah. Don't forget ATL. Atlanta is the biggest airport in the country. Hartsfield Jackson International in Atlanta is the busiest airport in the country. So don't forget us in Georgia here.
And we need to match up times. We need to look at visibility with respect to the airplane coming in, and look at the movement and visibility of those in the truck. So we can't say at this time whether that would have made a difference or not.
Thank you.
All right. I did not lose to cargo. I lost to a pallet strap. The metal strap that goes around a pallet and the cargo that's on top of the pallet. I lost to that. It filleted my finger. I went zip and filleted my finger right through the pallet, right through the metal strap. So my finger the skin on my finger was doing a lot of this, waving, and there was a lot of blood. But Anyway, that is all that I have for you guys today. Remember, this is an ongoing investigation. And the takeaway from this is just like in the rest of life, what is an ideal situation does not always happen, and what you want to happen or what you think is best is not always functional, because this air traffic system, or the airspace, is so big and has so much going on in it that when you mess with one thing in one place, there is a cascading effect all across the country. That's why when you see storms in, say, Atlanta, all of a sudden LA and Chicago and Dallas have delays. It's because they send a lot of planes to Atlanta. So those planes get delayed, and then the planes where they're coming from get delayed. It all backs up. So what is always functional, or what is always ideal and what you wish would happen, will have the possibility to affect every airport in the country in a negative way. So it's what is ideal is not always what's possible. And if you follow people like Captain Steve, Vaz Aviation, and a few other pilot channels, you will see that there is multiple things that happen in airports all around the country that don't really get any attention because nothing negative ever comes of them. They're handled, planes go back to an open gate, they deplane, they find the issue, air traffic control handles it, it's taken care of. There is stuff that happens in airports all over the country that you never know about unless someone digs up the audio and makes a YouTube video about it, because it's handled. So the only time we ever talk about stuff is when things go wrong. You don't see the multiple things that happen and the emergencies that aren't tragedies every day. So think about it in the vast scheme of thing, just like when we talk about body systems and chronic pain and all that on the other channel, everything is interconnected. With aviation, everything is interconnected, and you start messing with one area of the country, everything else gets affected, and then people are angry for that. Somebody's always going to be angry about something. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I will see you tomorrow. We have some interesting stuff on the docket for tomorrow. And then Sunday night, we are talking chronic pain again on ETM. If you haven't subscribed to my second channel, please do. It is all where I use my college degree and my professional certifications to help you live better. All right, been lurking. I'm still doing paperwork for my post-op. Oh no. All right, but I will see you guys on the next one. LaGuardia and Newark are always pretty hairy to fly into. They're scheduled to land too close together when hitting winds that backs up traffic. And yes, my mom knows more about airports around the country than I do. And honestly, she knows more about airports across the country than Mr. Squid does. He's got the aeronautical engineering side. She's got the gate agent perspective. And I am going to try to go stop my finger from bleeding. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day. And please hit that like button on your way out. I really appreciate it. And it would help my channel grow. Thanks, guys.